Hey guys, this is Darius from Justice League Swag. We're back with another deck profile. This time we're doing Darkness Dragon World Death Tallica deck. Please like and subscribe. And Justin, take it away.
Okay, this is my Death Tallica Zegalia deck build, and this is Death Tallica's hand. This is the body of the deck, just because you can get it back from drop zone pretty easy, and then as an act call it from soul, so it makes it really easy to buddy call. And for a lot of the spells that I'm running, getting off the buddy call exactly when you want it is super important for this deck. But I'm going to start with my size 3 lineup. I need to put a special flag there. I am running 3 Black Crystal Dragon. This card is really good to try to stall out and deal your opponent damage. Not only does it deal damage, it takes cards out of their hand, which takes away advantage. It has double attack and it gets Soul Guard from the top. So it doesn't help with a lot of the abilities of the grade zeros that I'm running that are fetched from the drop zone most of the time. But this card is pretty decent. I like it because you cannot take effect damage. So you can't get spam killed by any of your opponent's effects or penetrate anything until you actually get Tallica off. The only thing that really hurts is Shadow Dive. Shadow Dive hurts a lot. So just 3 of this guy because he's good, but he's not like one of my win cons. 3 Demonic Deity General Gathora. Need to get one more of him foil. 3 of this guy because he becomes a size 0 if you have another size 2 or greater on the field. I mostly use his skill to put a card from drop zone in the soul of a monster on my field so that I could gain life or get my buddy out of the drop zone and then buddy call him so I have more attacks. I want to deal as much damage as fast as possible with this deck. Only 3 because sometimes you don't want to pay the gauge because you want to use the gauge to actually kill your opponent. So I'm only running him at 3 because when I was running in at 4 it was too gauge heavy. Now the boss monster of the deck. This is your win condition. You fill up your drop zone and then you drop this guy. He gains his soul from the field. Then he has the counter ability to restand him by sending 4 cards from the drop zone to the bottom of your deck. And then you can just keep doing that. So I've OTK'd a lot of people with this deck so far. It just goes wall to wall. But you cannot play this deck defensively. You want to go aggro all the time. But be mindful of your resources, because if you use up all your gauge, you will not be able to kill your opponent. Because you will not be able to play this card and other stuff. So for this card is really good. This is exactly what Tallica needed and to make it a faster deck instead of a deck that just drags on the game forever. Lastly, for my 3s, this is my star card and life gain card. I use a lot of life ramp in this deck instead of shields. There are no shields at all. There's no defense besides the monsters that you place in front of your opponent. So you can side shields or stuff that like damage reducers if you have issues with it. But I haven't had any issues with this. A life gain is really good for some of the spells that I'm using. And he pays 4 gauge and important is that he pays 4 gauge. Then you choose up to 4 Armor Knight or deep cards from the drop zone. So with the deck being deep, you choose deep. But a lot of the monsters have abilities or cards have abilities when you pick them up out of the drop zone. Like 1 grade 0 that I'm running, I'll get to shortly. So he makes a lot of those cards good. For 2s, I am just running 4 Extreme Prisoner's Winger because when you call them, you mill 2, which kind of gets you there for halfway there for Death Tallica Zegalia's ability. So most times I'll call him, mill the 2, and then if I have enough in drop zone, I'll play Tallica over and put the rest of the stuff that I want to go into his soul in his soul. It's really good. He's a 6/6, so some grade 3s like in Chaos can't even hit him alone. Next up, the buddy. It's the buddy because you can call him from the soul of a card. So if you actually like suck him up with one of the other monsters that gets soul guard from drop zone, he's pretty decent. Or from and then after it attacks, it goes in the soul, which is really good because it helps you defensively for this deck. Last of the size zeros. I'm running 4 Magus. I'm only running these 8 gray zeros because they're the only ones that have abilities from soul or from drop. So if he's placed in the soul of a card from the drop zone or from the field, you gain a life. So it's really easy to ramp up life in this, so you don't have to worry about shielding and just worry about killing your opponent. The highest life I think I got to this with this deck so far is like 16 or 17. So life gain too strong. Next up is items. I am running 3 Cursed Demon item. It gives you something to swing with while having a monster in your center. Plus, it stops your opponent from removing the soul of deep monsters in your center. So this is pretty good. I think it's just center. Yeah, it's just your center. So you just want to pile up all of the soul on your center. It's really easy for stuff to get killed. Moving to the spells. The reason why I run so much life gain and life gain is so good is because I'm running Death Astray at 4. This card is so good, it's just once per turn, but it really gets you there and killing your opponent. You get up, you're at 4 life. It doesn't matter if you set your life to 3 and discard your hand and draw 4 cards. A lot of times when I do it, it gives you game. So I think this is the only draw spell that I'm running, and nothing else will draw. Because you can, ideally, with how the deck is built, you can play this card 2 to 3 times a game. So there's no need to run anything else. The only other thing that you really could even run is like Abyss Symphony, just because it's deep. But you don't want to run Black Ritual on this deck because you don't want to kill off your stuff. That's why I actually took Devil Stigma out of the deck as well, because I was having issues with killing off my cards to gain gauge and then gain the life, but then I didn't have any cards on field to play the Zegalia. So I fixed it by just playing other gauge cards. Next up for spells, I might as well do it. The Madness Daily Boost at 4. Gives you 3 gauge, and it is a deep card, so it's perfect for gauge ramp. You can play almost every size 3 in the deck by just casting this once, so you don't have to worry about losing all of your gauge if you just spend all of your gauge yourself. Next up, gauge cards. Excel in. It helps get Zegalia there, and it helps get your drop zone set up with some of the size zeros and stuff that you may want. So max this baby 5. Every time you play Excel in, that's a Tallica attacking restanding once. Next up for spells, Rebel Armor at 4. I need to finish filling this out. This card is amazing. While it's in the soul of a card, well, deep card, it gains Penetrate and +1/+1. Now, +1/+1 doesn't really matter as much in this deck because, like, Tallica's defense is shit and his attack is already, like, overwhelming. But the Penetrate is the most notable part of it because, like, Chaos is a huge deck plate right now. And the ability where your monster's ability cannot be negated while this card is in the soul is really good, because then this gets around Style of Justice. So you don't have to worry about Style of Justice as much if you're playing this card. So I like it a lot. Lastly for spells, I'm playing Death Gauge Timer at 4. This card is so amazing in this deck just because if you play Zegalia, you can actually place this in the in the soul of it. So if this has 3 or 4 soul, you're automatically dumping multiple attacks for Tallica into your drop zone. So this is like really clutch in this deck. I haven't tried it like Black Knight still to see how some of this works yet, but it should be pretty good. Then last cards are impacts. I am running 3 Bloody Operate. This card makes this deck full of so much douchebaggery because you can Gauge ramp up. Get your gauge up to what? You just need 5 gauge. Have a regular, like, have your field, swing out with it. Then if you built up a sizable field or you have depth gauge timer, you pay 2 gauge and you could call a Zegalia from your drop zone and then place all of the, well, as many cards as you want from field into Zegalia's soul. So like your depth timers, if your opponent counter kills any of your monsters, and let you swing almost every time I've done it for game. Because it's only so much that you can do if your opponent's attacking you like 7 to 8 times. Especially with a card whose abilities can't be negated if you place the spell in its soul. So, good card is good. You could also counter call monsters during your opponent's turn. If you're absolutely going to die, could call a Tallica if you have enough gauge. You're running deadly boost, so you can always counter gauge, and you're running a def gauge timer, so you're going to gain gauge as soon as your opponent enters battle. So, yeah, pretty good. But that's it for my Def Tallica deck profile. Hope you guys like and subscribe, and I'll try to do more deck profiles. Yeah.